there, I'm board certified professional organizer Kathi Burns. I'm really glad you're here. This podcast is designed for busy entrepreneurs just like you who want to take better control of your business and move forward with less stress and more success. If this is your first time listening, then thanks for coming. The Organized and Energized podcast is produced for your enjoyment, and show notes are found at thepodcast.organizedandenergize.com. Come back often and feel free to add this podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. You can also follow me on Twitter at Organized Energy and Facebook. All links are in the show notes. Now let's get into the show. Hi, everyone. Today, we're going to talk with Molly Mandelberg, and we're going to discuss how to expand your productivity and master your energy. Now, Molly's the founder of Wild Hearts Rise Up, and she's the creator of the Magnetic Influencer Collective, as well as being a best-selling author. She's also the host of Tactical Magic Podcast and Reveal the Game of Life podcast, which I've been a guest on. Molly works with coaches, healers, consciousness leaders to broadcast their messages with ease, so they can reach more people and make more money with less time spent. She is speaking my game. Molly travels the world and runs her six-figure business out of her self-converted Sprinter van tiny home. It's really, really cool. She loves helping her clients to systemize their work and master the magnetics of marketing so they can experience more freedom and make an even bigger difference. I'm excited to talk to Molly today again. So let's jump into the talk. Hi, everyone. I'm back and I'm with Molly. I'm with Molly Mandelberg, and we're going to talk today about expanding your productivity by using your energy and hopefully using less energy to do more. So hi, Molly. Thanks for coming on.
Hi, happy to be here.
Yeah, I know you're in your van and now you're in Austin, Texas. Now, this is someone that you might aspire to, ladies. She travels, she's a gadabout. She travels all over the place in her van, doing business, making lots of money, and going wherever the heck she wants to go. So talk to me, Molly, a little bit about how you got to where you're at. Well, first off, how did you start in your business? Let's start there.
Okay.
And what was your ideal goal?
Yeah, I started my business about 8 years ago. And when I started, I was doing hypnotherapy and I was kind of nicheless. I had the point of view that hypnotherapy could help anyone do anything. And so I was going in kind of all directions, trying to get anybody I could possibly get as a client. And I enjoyed the work that I was doing. I felt like I was really helping people. I was able to change lives, so to speak. But two things were going on in the background. One was I was starting to notice there was this sort of innate cap on how many people I could serve in a lifetime of one-on-one work. So I started having this desire, this drive to lead workshops, create courses, build programs, and switch to more of a one-to-many model. And at the same time, I had paused my nomadic ways. I had already been nomadic for about 7 years at that point, and was trying to stay in one place, to work in an office, to see people face to face. And that desire for travel and moving around and being in different places was feeling really stifled. And so that also was encouraging me to figure out a way to bring my business online and to serve people without having to be in a brick and mortar office of some kind. And so I started leading workshops. I started investing heavily in training and mentorship and getting the support that I required to both find the courage and the belief in myself, and also the strategic know-how to actually put these things out into the world. And it wasn't like I launched a course and boom, my whole life changed and everything was easy. I actually had to fail a few times launching courses that didn't work, learning from my mistakes, getting the feedback and paying attention and not allowing that to collapse me, but actually allowing that to teach me what I needed to do differently next time. And after a little while, I realized that I had a really great passion for synthesizing deep and powerful work into digestible content and helping other people use these technologies and these systems to do the same thing, to go from a one-to-one model to a one-to-many model, and to do it with as much ease as possible, with as much integrity and authenticity as possible, and to do it in a way that honors our magic. I work mostly with pretty spiritual, woo-woo leaders, mentors, healers, people who don't necessarily vibe with the, bro-y marketing strategies that are out there and want a more intuitive approach or a more holistic, heart-centered approach. So I have a lot of fun bridging that gap between like understanding the energy and how our belief in ourselves and our belief in our business and our belief in our work can impact everything we're creating, and bringing business strategy and technology and sort of systems to that place, and bridging that gap between being, spiritual and intentional and aware and conscious, and wanting to bring that magic into the world in an exponentialized way, and needing the tools and the support to do that without like falling into overwhelm or, burnout over and over and over again. And that's kind of the beauty of setting these systems up, is that with the right things in place, I can travel the world. I can work less days per week. I can spend like serious quality time with my loved ones, and do the things that I want to do, and be in the places and that I want to be, and become the person that I want to become, and follow my passions and make art and see music and do all the things that I love to do, while still running a thriving business and knowing that I'm making a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, you're the ideal avatar for women who want to just do their own thing in their own time, in their own way. And I love what you said about, you going from one to many. And I think that's where a lot of women are right now, who have launched. They're very successful at what they do one-on-one, and they're moving into the one-on-many. I know that happened with me as well. When COVID hit, sometimes that caused a shift for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You did it intentionally prior to that, but a lot of people, we just got popped into that. And so talk to me about, whenever you did a few courses and you had some failures, what do you see was the thing that really didn't work with the courses that you had launched in the very beginning, before you took all the training, or maybe halfway through the training? What happened with that, and where did you see it kind of stumbled?
So one of the things was, like I said, at first I was niche averse. I was avoidant to niching down. And I know that niching has a lot of, I say niche because it rhymes with rich, and niche rhymes with quiche. So if you are a French speaking person, I apologize. But that niching down can bring up a lot of emotions, because we don't want to turn anyone away. We want to help as many people as possible. And what I had to come to realize was that it's actually easier to help more people when you're more specific about who exactly you can really serve. And even though you can serve many people with a lot of the modalities that are out there that we're helping people with, it's likely that you resonate deeply with certain kinds of people a little bit more than you resonate with others. And if you're thinking, I'm going to be stuck in a room, and for example, I work online, so I'm not actually stuck in a room with anyone except my little dog who's behind me. If you're going to be stuck in a room with this person, this avatar client of yours, for the next 3 to 5 years, isn't it somebody that you want to hang out with? Don't you want it to be someone that you enjoy spending time with, or that you vibe with? And so when you start looking at it that way, it starts to become more clear who you want to hang out with, who you want to spend time with, who you really want to see transform and self-actualize and transcend their stuff through your support. And then I had to recognize that there are certain things that people will pay money for, and certain things that they won't. So when we're looking at naming a course or creating a new program, we want to use this like beautiful language that sounds like, ooh, that's nice. But if it's not put through one of the lenses of the things that people pay money for, it's not going to be a course that sells. And that sucks to acknowledge, but it's actually pretty easy to meet that sort of benchmark, I guess you could call it, that framework, by looking at what those things are. So the 3 things that people pay for are health and beauty, which we see rampant on the internet. Anything that's going to help people feel better in their bodies, or feel healthier, or feel like they're able to acknowledge in their beauty, or take care of themselves the way they want to take care of themselves. That's health and beauty. That's one of the 3 mega niches. The next one is relationship. That could be relationship to self, relationship to partner, relationship to family, relationship to kids, all kinds of relationships. But relationship is a place that we have enough urgent desire that people will pay money to help solve those problems. And the third one is money, or finances, or, wealth, or how do I make more money? How do I keep my money? How do I spend smarter? Like all of those things. How do I invest? That's a place that people will spend money to fix or figure out or get better at. So if we look at the deep work that we do, two different people could be running the same business. Let's take just a not silly, but an easy example. Two Reiki practitioners. They're helping people with their bodies. They're helping people with their soul, their spirit, their intention. One of them could be deeply passionate about embodiment and about somatics and about the physicality of that. And so they're more easily going to go through the health and body sort of pathway to sell the same services. Whereas the other person is like really passionate about family and connection and community, and they're going to sell their Reiki magic through a totally different portal. And so different people are going to end up getting the same services, but they walk through two different doorways because that urgent desire that they have, that pressing need, that prayer that they've been asking for support with is like beaconed out by these two different options, and they get to find the person that helps through that lens that they're most desiring to figure it out through.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think that people are scared of creating a niche. You know, they don't want to go down and eliminate the people, especially when people are first starting out. If you are out there in the audience listening, if you're just starting, you don't want a niche, but you do want a niche. And what I found a long time ago, and tell me if you agree with this, is that we are our own best avatar. When you had said something about who do you want to spend 3 hours with in a room 5 days a week, you know, is it going to be someone like you who you resonate with, or is it going to be somebody that you can't even relate to? So don't you think that that's true?
Yeah, it's almost always ends up being some version of you, often a past version of you. And what one of my mentors says that I love is that you only have to be 2 steps ahead of your people. And so you don't have to have everything figured out to help that person who's like you. You just have to be a couple steps further down the road. And that's definitely where I was when I chose this niche of like, okay, y'all need help launching courses. Like I was started by just letting my friends hire me because I was like, I figured out this whole email sequence sales funnel connected to a like software to deliver the course, this whole process of technology. I know how to do it. You guys want to figure out how to do that, I'll help you do that. And now I'm probably a lot more than 2 steps ahead of those people that I'm helping, but it only had to be that much to know that I could help them. And to answer your earlier question of why those failures happened, they were for varying degrees. I launched probably 3 or 4 courses before one finally started selling and taking off. And I was trying to do things. One of them, I started trying to be a money mindset coach before I had really addressed my money mindset issues. I now have since created a money mindset program from a place of like true prosperity and abundance that definitely sold and gets amazing results for people. It's called
That's a
Peace
big
with Money.
difference.
But
Yeah.
the first time I tried to launch a program about money magic and mindset, I was not in a healed place with my relationship to money. And so it was coming from a place of, ooh, this doesn't feel quite aligned or right for me. And I think that's why that one didn't sell. And then a couple of the other ones just weren't specifically targeting a pressing desire enough. It sounded like, oh, that's nice, but not a, I need that right now, I'll come and pay you for it. And so we want to look at the names of our offerings when we're doing a leveraged model like this, or even naming like your free consult if you're doing a consult model for your business. Is it something that when they see it, your people will say, that is for me? If they can look at that and say, that's what I want, that's for me, then they're more likely to come and check it out and more likely to come and say yes to it. So we got to put it through that lens. And I didn't have enough of those distinctions at first. I just thought, oh, I have this like cool idea. I could make something. I'll just go make that and then try to sell it. So that's actually something I encourage people to do. Also, I have a course about creating, launching, and delivering courses called Create, Launch, Deliver. And one of the things is to look at what it is that people want from you, but also the thing you want to create. Try it out by selling it first. Maybe outline the course so you know what's going to go in it, but don't spend dozens of hours building out the entire program until someone has come and said, yes, I want that. Here's my money. And that does a couple things. Once they pay you for it, you now have this beautiful energetic fire under your butt to go and follow through with creating it. It makes it so much more fun to do that work of building out the templates, of building out the videos, of, you know, showing up to record things. all of that is easier once you've been paid for it, because now there's this person waiting for you to finish it. And so that's one side of it. You're now being paid to deliver it. And the other side is you've proven the concept. You now know that the idea that you have is actually viable. And so it's better to follow through with it once you know that for sure. And so instead of spending a year or 6 months or even 3 months creating all of the content for your course before you ever tell anyone about it or let them purchase it, I say do it the other way around. Figure out everything you need to know about it so that you feel good selling it, and then sell it, and then follow through with it by the time it has to start. So you might need to set some time aside for that, but it's a totally different process that makes it easier.
Yeah. And I think as creative artistic, I know I fell into that a long time ago where I just create. It's like, here, I'm going to give all my information to the world, but I didn't really ask if anybody wanted it. I thought it was great, right? But, until you find that people really want to do it. So I think that's fantastic advice. And it's so easy. I agree. Once you have that one person that says, yes, I want it, then you have a deadline. Then you're able to settle your priorities, in a more effective manner, because you know what you have to get done by a certain date. And I agree. I think it's a brilliant model, because then you're totally inspired and fired up, because you know that it's wanted and it's needed.
Yeah. And it's more fun to market it once that one person says yes and pays you, because you're like, wow, somebody sees this as valuable. It's not just me. Hey, everybody else, like, get on board. Is this for you? Come find it.
Yeah. And that person too can help you model it. You can use them as a sounding board and say, what do you think about this? I'm going to do this module. Is this going in line with what you thought you were going to get from the course? So I love the market research part of it, for sure. Now, I know we want to talk about productivity, maximizing your time with minimal energy. So let's talk about the energetics. I'm all about energetics of stuff. Let's talk about energetics of productivity, if you would.
Yeah. Okay. Biggest myth out there, and I've been facing this with a lot of clients in the last few weeks, is that the more you do, the more productive you are.
Yeah.
And
I call it being stuck in your busyness.
Yeah, it seems obvious. It seems like, of course, the more I do, the more I get done. And it's like, well, actually, the more you do without stopping, without tending to yourself, without filling your cup in some way energetically, even if your work fills your cup, like my work definitely fills my cup. But if that's the only thing I'm doing, it can, I don't want to say go stale, but it can run you ragged. And so energetically, we need pause. We need time to reset. We need blank space for new ideas to come through, for insights and inspiration. If we're just going and pushing all the ideas out, there's no time for that deep insight, for that guidance, for that new awareness to come through, or for somebody to say something and it just spurs a new idea. That it's vitally important to our creative process and to our productivity in general to have generative time that isn't generating time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I always say space breeds clarity, and clarity breeds productivity, and productivity means more success. So if you don't have that space there, if there's no gap in between all your busyness, so to speak, you're just going around like this. And
and I'll just say, sorry, go ahead.
You're getting a lot done, but at the end of the day, you don't know what you did. Right.
Yeah. And just for a little context, like, so people don't think I'm just saying this, I published 2 books last year. I launched about 6 programs every single year. I travel the world full time, and I work, like, do calls for my business 3 days a week, 3 weeks a month. So like, I get a lot done. And I'm not saying that to say like, oh, I'm so special, I'm so good. It's because I take deep time for myself. And depending on your life, like, I'm visiting my brother right now and they have 4 kids. It can be really hard, depending on your life, to carve that time out for yourself. But I know it is vitally important. If you have creations you want to allow forth, if you have big vision that you want to bring to life, the blank space, the creative, like, dates with yourself, and the filling of your cup through self-care, through pleasure, through wonder, through nature, all of those things are vitally important to the creative process. And to think that we can just keep pushing through and going without those things is not a healthy choice, in my opinion.
It's not sustainable either.
Yeah.
And you end up being like verklempt and unclimped and bummed out and depressed and burnout and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you're doing 3 days a week, which I know this because we were scheduling, which I think is fantastic. I wish I could get to that. I'm not there yet. But what do you do? I guess I should ask, whenever you take pauses, what's your favorite method to really just clear your mind? Let's go into that.
I mean, there are certain processes and practices that I do daily that keep my energy where I want it to be, where I feel most like alive and resonant and ready to go. One of those is a journaling practice. So I write every morning before I get out of bed, and every night before I go to sleep. The last thing I do is write. That looks like processing what's going on for me emotionally in the day. That looks like gratitude lists. That looks like asking big questions of the universe, asking for what I want to actualize, fleshing out my vision, expanding on what I think I'll feel like, what I'll be like when I have that thing I think I desire. Just all kinds of verbal processing to zhuzh my vibe, to like enhance my mojo. And I do it in the morning and I do it at night so that I'm like bookending my day with that kind of magic and intention. I also try to meditate every single day, depending on where I'm at in life, what I'm up to. Sometimes that's 5 minutes, sometimes that's 30 minutes. But it's a dramatically different day by the end of the day when I do it or when I don't do it. And so I've learned that over the years, that just do that or I'm just not quite as happy and whole as at the end of the day. But as far as what do I do with my free time? I mean, for me, I have a dog. I spend a lot of time walking the dog. That resets my energy. I love exercise. I'm sort of a recent, in my mid 30s, got into exercise in a serious way. And so I love going to work out, and it changes my energy for the rest of the day. Sometimes for a few days afterwards, I just feel better. Yeah. And I like to create. So I make art and I write. Sometimes I write books. Sometimes I just write for myself. But having creative energy that isn't necessarily focused just on my business brings me great joy. It lights me up. And having those things that light us up, it could be playing with your kids. It could be taking a hike. It could be going swimming. I mean, whatever the thing is for you, it could be, adult coloring books. To do something that brings you that sense of lightness of being, that sense of joy. We need time for that. And I started to notice early on in my business that I was working 5 days a week, and I was trying to fit creative projects in between calls. And so I was trying to switch gears, go from like facilitation gear to like creation mode, back to facilitation gear. And those transition points were really stressful, and I couldn't quite get into the creative zone. By the time I got to my creative zone, it was time to shift out of that into the next call. And so I realized I would much rather have 3 busy call days than have calls spread out over 5 days a week. So first I cleared off my Fridays, and those would be my creation days. That's when I would write my book, or I would work on my next piece of art, or whatever that creative project was. I created an Oracle deck. I run 2 podcasts. Like, those creative projects needed time to come alive somewhere that wasn't in between all my other calls, or at the end of the day when I'm tired, or before the day when I'm starting to stress out about what calls I have. So something had to change. And for me, that looked like more unscheduled days on my calendar. I can still schedule myself. Like, we're having a call on a Monday right now. It's my only call of the day. I still had a lot of great stuff going on earlier. But it's rare. I just don't allow other people to schedule those days, so that's sort of my sacred time. I get to decide what to do with it.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic that you could go, I did this and this and this and this and this, because I would wager that a lot of you listening on the podcast, if people were to ask you, what do you do to make yourself unwind or to feel good, you might not have the 5 or 6 or 7 answers like Molly does, or like I have a few, because when we get stuck in the work mode, we forget what brings us joy. Yeah. So I love the idea that you have, you can just go and say, I do all this, and it's because you've thought it out. And I think that that's because you've taken the pause. I love the idea of you bookending the beginning and the end of the day. I do it as well. I know that I wake up with what I go to sleep to. So it's very important for me to book in the end of the day and start the day with a little bit of space as well in my brain before I start that whole cycle of the day. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, and I would encourage all of you listening, if you haven't set up some kind of routine in your life to pause, hopefully at the beginning before you start the whole shebang of the day, to pause, because I would recommend that you do that. Like you say, Molly, even for 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes is fine. It doesn't have to be a 30-minute thing. As long as you just take that time to have the clarity so that you can create the space for your intention for the day. I agree. I have some days whenever I don't do it and I'm like, oh, okay, that day just didn't quite go like I thought it was going to go. And I had not taken that time.
Yeah. And I love that you use the word intention. That's totally the difference between a day without that intention is kind of forced to kick off from a place of reaction. So it's like you're choosing intention or reaction every single day. For example, if you pick up your phone and you look at social media or you look at your email, and the first thing in the day, you're inviting other people's agendas from the get-go. And that means that you're in a reactionary place from the first moment of your day. So one of my clients, I love this, she says she puts her journal on her phone on the bedside table so that in the morning, the first thing she reaches for, if she's trying to reach for her phone, her hand lands on her journal. And it's like, okay, she has to start there. I just love that little mind hack of like, okay, my natural, and I do it to myself too, sometimes because the alarm is going off or something, I reach for the phone and then I'm like, oh, nope, I don't touch that first. I'm not opening it. I'm not looking at it. I start with me and what I want to be and become and what I want to think and step into today, and set those intentions before you let other stuff come and impact you.
Yeah, because every email is, anytime you check your email, you're in reaction mode. Same thing with phone. The only reason that people are calling you or emailing you is because they want you to do something, say something, do something, respond, whatever. It's something that I agree totally. I love the way you said it, that, it's people coming into your day and setting up your day as opposed to you setting up your day. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I have to ask this because I am a professional organizer. What is your favorite organizing hack? What do you use in your business that you rely on that just really makes things happen for yourself? It could be a tactic, it could be a program, it could be anything at all that you want to discuss.
Gosh, I could geek out with you on this.
I know.
I'll just say overarching categories. Biggest thing is scheduling. I like to have that blank space, like I said, and I also like to show up on social media and like many different platforms, and show up on my podcast and show up on my email list and show up in all these places for my broadcasting and marketing. So having batching content, making 5 emails instead of 1 at a time, and then having a way to schedule them out. So having an email platform, having an online scheduler, having a social media scheduler, those scheduling kind of tools where content can be dripped out at dates that I specify or in time spans that I specify. That is the biggest time saver when it comes to marketing for your business, in my opinion. Organizational wise, I want to say having a project management tool and or a virtual assistant.
Yeah. And or both.
Course, yeah. Well, and both. Yeah. I have my assistant running my project management tool now, so that when I'm like, hey, we're doing this, she puts it in the right place in there so we can go back on it. We can add to it if we need to. But yeah, I was doing all of that for myself before I, started having assistants doing it for me.
Yeah, batching is so incredibly awesome. Again, we're on an off day too. For some reason, both of us are doing this podcast on a day that we normally don't. At least I switched over to a different day. And I like to do 5 podcasts in a day, boom, 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 and then it's done, right? And then I have a month plus right there in the queue ready to go. And anything that you do over and over and over, it is great to batch. So I am with you on that, sister. And having your calendar, I think that everybody needs at least, and you do it a lot more, but I think bare minimum, everybody needs a 4-hour block for themselves, for creativity, for creativity and projects during the week, just blocked out. It's your time. And that way you can use it for whatever. If from a business standpoint, I like the idea of that's when you do your big project, that thing you've always been wanting to do, like your book, Molly. You are so prolific with everything that you do. I'm going to write a book this year. For you, you'd write 2 books and 8 courses and 5 launches. but we need, if you don't do the 4-hour block every week just for your big project, nothing's going to get done. So I just love your tactics. And obviously you're someone that is a really good person to model because you're living your dream. You're in a Sprinter van, love the Sprinter. We have one as well. And it's calling me out there in the driveway saying, come on, Kath, we need to go take a ride. Yeah, I think it's great.
Awesome.
So this is what I also want to talk about this year is celebration. I find that I don't really celebrate as much as I should when I make that landmark, when I get where I want to get. What do you do to celebrate? What's your favorite celebration thing?
Yeah. Okay. So I love that you're bringing this up because this is the greatest way to avoid burnout, I think, is just this. It's a new neural pathway for most of us, is the practice of acknowledging ourselves every step of the way. And if we don't do that, we're always bent on never enough. It's not enough. I have to do more. Okay, this is complete. Now what's the next thing? And we're always moving, going without taking the time to actually pause. The act of acknowledging yourself for every single task you do, even if it's just like a high five yourself, it changes your whole brain chemistry. Suddenly you're getting dopamine responses from the action of doing it, even if it's you checking it off the list and like just looking at it for a moment, like, yes, I did that one. That feels really good. So for me, I will use carrots, so to speak, of when I finish this, I'll get this. Like sometimes I'll take myself out to dinner, or when I do that task, I'll call so-and-so right after and talk to them about it. Or I often use accountability partners. So like, for example, writing the last book that I finished, I knew I needed somebody to hold me accountable. So I just found somebody else who I knew who's working on a book, and we had a weekly time. And then we said like, hey, great job at the end of it every time. And so we had that feedback loop of, we're doing this, we're making progress. We're not only showing up for each other to hold each other accountable, we're also celebrating each other every step of the way. And I had 2 projects I had been putting off that were very like not required for my business, which means that they were, side burner kind of projects, but I still really wanted to see them through. And I said, okay, if I finish, I wanted to get a new iPad for this art app called Procreate that I just knew I wanted to make art on, which I finally got a week ago and have been making art every single day on it since then. But I wasn't allowed to buy the iPad until I finished these 2 projects. So I started making more time for those projects because I had this carrot dangling in front of me, like, ooh, you get to play with that new game once these 2 big things that you'll totally ignore if you have that app.
Yeah.
They need to get done first. And once you finish those things, you can go have that thing. So I use a little bit of bait for myself sometimes to follow through, but then it feels like this beautiful celebration. I get to treat myself, and it doesn't always have to be money either. I mean, it could be, the celebration of just sharing it with somebody else and having that like self acknowledgement. It feels bold to do that if you never do that. If you think you need to discount your wins or not talk about how great you are, it's important to find community that will celebrate you in your bigness. And that's one of the things that I'm really passionate about creating too, is those spaces where women like us can share the big wins and not feel like we need to shrink or discount it, because a lot of us don't have those spaces in our normal lives. It's not that, it's becoming more common, but it's not that common to feel like you're allowed to be all of your big, bright, shiny self and not feel guilty for being that bold or braggadocious or audacious. So yeah, I think there's lots of different ways to celebrate. Sometimes it could even just be like, you get your favorite non-sugar chocolate bar at the end of the day because you did your good work. It can be simple.
It can be very simple, but it's so critical. And so, I love the way that you explain that. So talk to me about what project. What do you have in the brew, and what are you excited about this coming around the corner?
Yeah, I have a lot of things. One of the big, beautiful things, that program that I just mentioned, where we're creating that new feedback loop, that new neural pathway, learning how to acknowledge our wins and celebrate, is part of my 6-month group program called Magnetic Influencer Collective. And that is coming up again this summer. So I've got a couple workshops that are sort of vision planning calls, which lead into that. And those workshops will be happening, I think, in June and July. So depending on when this podcast airs, you can go to wildheartsriseup.com/events and check those out. The big projects that I'm working on right now, like I said, I just got this fun app that I'm making new projects for my Etsy shop, which is a side business of mine, making fun art to put on t-shirts and stickers and things like that. So that's kind of the fun thing I'm working on in my creative space at this moment. Yeah. And then also looking at real estate. I've been thinking about building a retreat center, and now I'm starting to shift that vision into something else in the meantime. But I'm doing things outside of the creation of my business right now that also feel like they're fueling a lot of energy for me, which is exciting and fun.
Yeah, I think you have to have the energy, you have to have the enthusiasm towards something that you're doing that's not just business, because then I think oftentimes what happens with me anyhow, whenever that spark is there, it's somehow my business can weave right into it, because it's just the way that it flows. I think if you're doing your dharma, or you're doing what you should be doing in the world anyhow for your work, oftentimes your passions and your little side gigs end up just, oh, that works that way too. Just like with you, with empowering women and having women have the ability to celebrate, to expand, to bring out their boldness, with gusto and no fear, and not feel like they're bragging. I like that, braggadocious. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
All the side gigs kind of lead around to the same thing, because we are one big synergetic being, like we're multifaceted, but we're all kind of, we have our own unified field in life. So I love that. Let's see, is there anything, this has been really good conversation. Is there anything that we should have talked about that you had on your mind that I didn't ask?
No, I think we covered a lot of great stuff. I mean, if anything, I would just want to encourage anyone out there who's bringing a dream like this to life. Don't give up, and don't feel like you have to do it all yourself. Like, there are really beautiful opportunities for community, for, collaboration, and for mentorship, and like spaces that want to hold you and walk beside you as you create these kinds of big leaps in your life and your business. So don't feel like you're alone. If you feel like you've been doing it alone for too long, reach out and find support. I'm happy to support you. I have all kinds of offerings, like I said, some, one-on-one, and some group programs and things like that people can get involved in, and from anywhere from very low cost to higher end, higher touch opportunities. But your vision is worthy of your attention, and your ideas deserve the space to grow and thrive. So I'd actually be happy to, if anyone out there is listening and you feel like you're a coach or a healer, a holistic practitioner, and you want support, there's a really fun quiz on my website that you can take that's called "What Level of Thought Leader Are You?" which will give you a nice snapshot of where you are right now and what to look at energetically as far as expanding into the next level. And I'm also doing, we'll see, this is coming out in a few months from when we're airing, but I'm doing right now a 7-day free coaching opportunity that you can apply for. The link is on my Instagram. It's wildheartsriseup.com/7 days, and you can find the application there if you want to get your hands on 7 days of free coaching with me.
How cool is that? I'll make sure to put the links. We'll make sure we'll have those in the show notes, as far as the quiz link and the 7-day link and all that. So, depending on when you're going to see this podcast, it might or might not be available, the free 7-day coaching, but jump on it if you see it, for sure. Yeah. And, I really appreciate your time, Molly, and we are like-minded, synergetic women. And I'm just stoked that I could interview you and you could interview me, because we always have great conversations.
Definitely. Yeah. Go check out your episode on my show too. Kathi Burns is on Tactical Magic podcast as well. We had a great conversation.
Woo-hoo! We did have a good time. Okay, you guys, signing off for today. Thanks, Molly. I really appreciate it. And we will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to this podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you want to hear more, feel free to subscribe on the platform of your choice. Also, if you feel so inclined, I would truly appreciate a good rating from you to me. Have a stellar day.